That'll make your cotton picking slavery a little bit better to bear. So guys, this is my hotel actually. This is kind of like this is the breakfast area, chill out zone. And it's right opposite. This is the west gate, which is where this is, I think, I just got here, but I'm pretty sure this is the only entrance you can use to get in. So perfectly positioned. This will be lovely in the morning. Have yourself a cup of tea and some brekkie and look over, where are we? Khiva. We're in Khiva. So I'm going to go and have a little look into Khiva. About to enter the ancient city of Khiva. Costs you 120 som, gets you 2 days in here. So you cannot actually go into Khiva unless you pay to go in. Wait. So this fat little stump of a minaret was actually meant to be one of the biggest minarets mankind had ever seen. So the plan of somebody, I can't remember his name, started building this in 1851 with the plan that you'd be able to see the entire way to Bukhara from it. He died a few years after its completion, and well, after it started, and it never got completed. So yeah, this is just the base of a minaret, but it's kind of become a little bit of a symbol of Khiva in a way, I guess. But you can only imagine, like, the size of this base here is absolutely massive, and how colourful it would have been. I mean, imagine this thing when it was, if it ever got completed. It would have been absolutely incredible. Alrighty, onwards. Khiva was the hub of the slave trade from Central Asia. Slaves were sent here. Well, we might remember the Hindu Kush, the Hindu Killer Mountains. A lot of those were brought up through from India up to here for trading. And then later on, sort of towards the 17th and the 18th and 19th century, when Russia started taking a little bit more interest in this part of the world, the marauding tribes that sort of like were in the desert regions around Khiva, they used to go out and capture Russians. The marauding people would go and snatch them and they'd bring them here. So here you could find anything from Indians to Russians, and everything in between. Probably not too many Australians were here. So it's very recent actually. Like it's strange to think that the slave trade was still very strong here right through until the 19th century, the late 19th century. This area here, the East Gate, is where the slave trade took place. These niched areas here, which are right the way through here, and the doorways within, is where they held the slaves. So you'd come through here if you were in the market for a slave. So out here would have been a market. You'd walk straight through here into the old town of Khiva, and you're like, oh, I need to get myself a couple of watermelons. What else was it? Some eggs, a litre of milk, and 3 Russian women slaves. So you'd come here and they'd be tied up in these windows, and you'd just sort of, you'd come on through and you go, yeah, let's have a look, what condition, next, yeah, let's take you. This area still has very much alive a slave industry today. So the school children on their school holidays and things, usually in autumn, are forced out into the fields to go and pick cotton, and they have to work until they fulfill their quotas. I'm not sure what the parameters are of who has to go into there and do it, but they're forced into it. They're just like pulled from the streets. It's kind of like a little bit of like North Korea going on with the potato farming in North Korea. It's a similar thing going on here, which is a little bit odd, but they're not for sale anymore. But you can get yourself a fun little hat, and that'll make your cotton pickings, slavery a little bit better to bear. Well, Khiva is a thoroughly enjoyable place to walk around in the evening. I can highly recommend that. They've done a lot with lighting and all the rest of it, but it's not a gaudy Disney-fied show. It's just really highlighting, like, these places are very atmospheric, under shadow and light, and it's just it's a lot cooler, obviously, and you don't have the crowds to contend with. It's a win, 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 win. You know what I'm liking about, so out here this is all like clearly redone new paving and stuff like that. Here we have the original, geez, you can even see in this the original old wagon tracks that used to run through here. Look at that. This lighting is doing excellent to show them up in the so there's the original roadway. This is, yeah, imagine how many centuries it's taken to carve out grooves like this, wagon tracks, and traders probably loaded with people from India or Russia off to the slave markets down here. The horrors that people thought when they were being led down a lane like this, it hurts your brain to think about what people were capable of doing, and still are, of doing to each other. To go with a bit of blue and a bit of green, normally warm lighting everywhere. This one here, they've just gone with the Kermit the Frog look, so that's good on them. And this is the old gates. These here are the old gates of the caravanserai. So in there, you would have taken your camels, your wagons, your mules, you would have found accommodation, and got yourself a good night's sleep. It's hard being a slave trader, isn't it? Have yourself a good night's sleep in there, And then before a hard morning, the next morning, of trying to sell your human traffic. That's a good movie, isn't it, by the way? Very different to the human traffic that was going on here. He's pretty cool, aren't you, Cobber? I've come back during the day. This here is the East Gate and the former slave trading area. So I just come for a little wander around Khiva in the day. There's not a lot different than during the night. It's just lighter and hotter. But it's still, all the market stalls are out here, so you can kind of imagine quite well what it would have been like coming through here. It would have been buy your slaves, get yourself a hat. Not a lot has changed, really. So you really get a good feeling of what this city centre of Khiva would have been like. This is the East Gate down here, the West Gate down there, and just this whole trading street, and it heads up through here to the Caravanserai, which is there. Nothing's essentially changed. Okay, they got sunglasses, but you know, they're still selling down here some pretty unique jewellery, clothes, hats and things like that. Silks and garments and just stuff that they've always sold here, really. This is a beautiful little part of town to really give yourself that feeling that you've jumped into an old Silk Road town. None of these were here, of course, last night. They all pack up, but it's a nice spot. Yeah. Yes, lovelies. Over there's the West Gate, the East Gate and the North Gate. This is kind of the area away from the tourism glitz and glamour, which is predominantly over here. Still within the old fortified citadel of Khiva, but over here it's a lot more as it always was. I guess these mud brick houses people are still living in today in much the same manner as they would have always lived here. So it's pretty cool. I reckon this is a very interesting part of Khiva, actually, and there's really kind of nobody around here. It is the middle of the day, and unless you're from Saharan Africa or Australia, you're probably not used to these sorts of temperatures. So people will be inside in cooler areas. I find this a pleasant time to be out and about because there's nobody around. Just walking in the suburbs of Khiva. Some cool old doors every now and then. I'm up at the watchtower in the old town of Khiva. Here's the watchtower. Can't go up to the top level, but this is a lot more pleasant or quieter time of the day to be here. So everybody comes here for sunset, which sets over Dadaway, and I came up here last night for sunset like everyone else and it was just absolutely insanity. It was it was just chock-a-block packed all through here. So if you decide that you don't need sunset in your Instagram photos, then you have this place pretty much to yourself. So there's a little traveller's tip for you. There's a nice view from here. Oh, can you imagine this thing? This minaret. And here is the Ark, which is essentially the city within the city. That's where the Emir would hang out. His palace is in there, courtrooms and stuff like that. These are the prison holding cells, and this square here is where they used to conduct public executions, and they used to have all sorts of fun ways of doing that. burying alive. They just dig a hole in the ground, chuck you in the hole and then fill it in. Impaling. What was the other? They used to chuck them off the top of minarets. That was a good way. Just hurl them off the top somewhere. There's plenty of minarets there in here. Just take them up and yeah, all sorts of fun things like that. Oh yeah, public stoning. That was a good one. Obviously hangings. They're a little, you know, yeah, boring ones like that. There was one I saw a depiction of in a picture in there. Had no write-up of it, but it just had how women were dealt with and just women in a bag with a whole heap of cats. So that was odd. I'm not sure why a bag full of women and cats is, I guess you get scratched up a little bit, don't you? But alright, so you could have come here and watched women in bags of cats, bit of hanging over here, bury them alive here, impale them on spikes over here. Fun and games, eh? That was the weekend entertainment. You would have come here and just watched it all go on. Now, while that's not quite unique to this part of the world, as Europe were doing it right through the Middle Ages, Europe kind of gave away with that sometime around the 16th, 17th century. These guys were still doing this up into the 19th century, so well, and parts of the world are clearly still doing it today. Hangings, public stonings, that still goes on.